Welcome to the latest indie showcase, highlighting the many developer-submitted games and demos we check out. If you'd like to submit a game for a future video and stream, please get in touch. We are starting things off with the game Sanabi. This is a demo we checked out that I'm really looking forward to. What we have here is a 2D action-adventure game. Think of something like Bionic Commando meets like a Mark of the Ninja in terms of high-speed play and challenge. We play as a retired veteran with the most powerful Bionic Commando cyber arm imaginable. When a loved one is taken away from him, he goes on one final mission to figure out who was responsible. And to do that, we are going to be swinging, fighting, and exploring, all through some very beautiful 2D environments. The gameplay itself is definitely a mix of action-adventure swinging with kind of combat to go with it. It appears to be completely linear in that approach, at least what we saw from the demo. Each area will have you fighting through enemies, getting checkpoints, and dealing with a multitude of bosses. What I really enjoyed about this one is definitely the momentum. This is one of those games similar to Web, that it really gets that kind of motion and movement when it comes to swinging around, fighting enemies, etc. There are a variety of bosses, and the game appears to be more on the moderate to difficult side of things. But if you are somebody looking for a new action game to check out, definitely keep an eye out for Sanabi. For our next game, we turn to Outcore. This is a 2D platformer with as many fourth wall breaks as one could fit into a game. The story is that when we load up the game, there is now a little superhero girl in our computer. She doesn't know why she's there, and it's up to us to figure out how to get her memory back and figure out what is going on. So the game will actually use your own desktop, which I won't be showing the footage here, that you'll be able to interact with files and solve puzzles that way before going into the actual game itself with a lot of breaks, wacky dialogue, and again, as many 4th, 5th, and 6th wall breaks of disbelief as one can fit. In terms of the general gameplay, I felt the platforming was mostly responsive. I think there were a few issues with the dead zone of my controller more than anything else, but this is definitely a game that's going to be aimed for people who want to get involved with the crazy storyline, as well as the platforming, as both are really going hand in hand here. But I enjoyed this one. If you are looking for a very unconventional story for a platformer, then definitely check out Outcore. I believe the demo is still up now. We now turn to Bada Space Station. And this one basically dares ask the question, what if we combine Smash TV with a third-person action game and a touch of League of Legends? And this is a 1 to 4 player title where you will fight in these arenas for the amusement of aliens and other beings, trying to earn sponsorships, level up your character, and be the best dang gladiator in space that you can be. So what kind of attracted me to this game is that each one of the stars here is unique. While they all have similar to, again, League of Legends in terms of having basic skills and basic functionality, they all behave differently. One is kind of like a robot that can drop down like sentries and flies and shoots. Another is kind of close range, kind of stealthy, high dashing, that kind of thing. Now, the big thing that I saw from the demo is that I'm not sure how interesting it's going to be to play this game if you're only going to do this as a one-person team or just solo. But if you do have friends who are looking for a third-person action game, I would say this one definitely shows a lot of promise in terms of the diversity of characters. There is progression, and I believe there's going to be like boss fights and more situations in the full game. So with that said, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we have 3 more games to look at for our showcase. If you're interested in more of my thoughts on design, then check out my design books. For entry-level students, we have 20 essential games to study, and then the Game Design Deep Dive series that takes an extensive look at different genres. with free-to-play coming in 2022. Up now we have Hourglass. This is a first-person puzzle game. So for this title, the footage you're seeing is taken from the demo. The full game was released last year. The pitch here is that our puzzle mechanic is the ability to kind of record ourselves doing something and then rewind it and let that action happen while we're doing something else. If you played the Talos principle, then the mechanic should be very familiar to you. Our theme is ancient Egyptian, as we are exploring tombs in Egypt, trying to find, of course, our missing father, who went for a massive discovery and has gone missing ever since. From what we played of the demo, the puzzle solving seems to be more on the basic side. If you're hoping for like The Witness or Portal 2 levels of extreme critical thinking, I don't think the Hourglass is going to approach that much of it. You do get, I would say, a pretty good taste of this kind of time rewind mechanic. And if you haven't played the Talos Principle yet, or found that one to be too advanced for you, then Hourglass seems like a decent alternative as a good kind of like rainy day game or first timer experience. For our next game, we turn to Detained, Too Good for School. This is essentially an rated R take on River City Girls with a lot of fighting, cursing, and more. On our first day at a new high school, we get busted for drugs, and it turns out it was all planted by somebody at the school. And to figure out who did it, well, we are going to have to punch, kick, and do all kinds of fisticuffs to solve the case. So if you are familiar with River City Boys or River City Girls, the general gameplay should be familiar to you. This is basically an action game with a heavy dose of RPG progression. Eating food will permanently raise your stats, you'll get new moves by leveling up, attending class to up your stats as well. And then after school, you'll go around trying to solve cases and, of course, as you can see, beat up lots and lots of people. Now, while this is being shown with just one player, it does allow for, I believe, 2-player co-op. I don't know if it's going to be remote or local. But from what I played of this one, if you don't mind, again, the R-ratedness of the dialogue and what's going on, I would say this feels like a very solid take on that formula. And if you enjoy beat-em-ups, and especially if you enjoy the River City Boy/girl formula, definitely check this one out, especially if you have a friend who the two of you can go fighting together. For our last game of the showcase, we go to Adventure with Cleo, A Pirate's Tale. This is a pixel art point-and-click adventure game that definitely wears its inspiration on its sleeve. You play as Cleo, who upon discovering a mysterious diary and map, decides to go hunt for pirate treasure. And to do that, she's going to have to solve a variety of puzzles, meet a zany cast of characters, and do all the pointing and clicking one can do in these kinds of games. So the big thing about Cleo is that there are a variety of different puzzles in this game. From finding, of course, that one elusive pixel item in the background, to even playing a card game, and far more. Now, with that said, the game doesn't really, I think, have, or at least when we play the demo, a lot in terms of onboarding for new people. This game definitely assumes that you are familiar with titles like Sam & Max, Monkey Island, Grim Fandango, and the like. So if you are not a fan of traditional puzzle-focused adventure games, Cleo may not work for you, and there are more story-driven modern takes that we have certainly covered here on the channel. But if you are somebody who did grow up playing the Monkey Islands, the LucasArts era of adventure games, and is looking for another title like that, then I would at least give this one a try, and you may enjoy what you find. But with that said, we're going to wrap up our showcase here. With that said, we're going to wrap up our showcase here. There'll be links to all the games down in the description. Do all the liking and subscribing and commenting. Again, if you'd like me to tackle your game for a future piece, please reach out. Check out our Discord and Patreon link down below and come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where some of the art and science of games.